There's a way to destroy someone completely without ever raising your voice. No shouting, no revenge, no chaos, just stillness. And strategy. When someone betrays you, the world expects a reaction, an explosion, a storm, a scene. But the strongest man doesn't give them the storm. He becomes the silence they can't look away from. Because when you stay calm, they start to panic. When you say nothing, they start explaining. To themselves, to others, to anyone who will listen. When you don't defend yourself, they begin to look at what really happened. They start to question why you're so quiet, why you're so still, why you don't seem afraid. And slowly, without you lifting a finger, the truth begins to surface. The liar becomes exposed. The manipulator loses power. And the one who stayed still becomes the one they can no longer control. Machiavelli never taught men to shout louder. He taught them how to make their enemies scream into the void while they said nothing. This video is not about revenge. It's about strategy. It's about power. And it's about how to make those who tried to destroy you destroy themselves without ever needing to attack them at all. The world teaches you to respond. When you're insulted, respond. When you're disrespected, respond. When you're betrayed, respond. But every time you react, you give away power. They push your buttons and you move. They bait you and you bite. And every time you do, you prove to them that they still own your mind, that they can control your energy, that they can decide who you become in that moment. But here's the truth. Not reacting is not weakness. It's warfare. The man who does not react is not broken. He's calculating. Because when you don't react, you give your enemies nothing to work with. No fuel, no drama, no opening. You leave them alone with their lies, alone with their guilt, alone with their performance that now feels pointless because you never played your part. You see, reaction is what they want. It justifies their story. It validates their manipulation. It keeps them relevant in your mind. But when you stay still, when you look at them with no anger, no begging, no fear, they start to unravel. Because now they have to sit with what they've done. They have to live with their performance falling flat. And worst of all, they lose the one thing they truly wanted. Your energy. Your attention. Silence becomes a mirror. And most people can't stand their own reflection. You don't win by reacting. You win by denying them the battle they were hoping for. Because if they can't pull you into the mud, they can't make you dirty. And if they can't make you dirty, they can't feel clean about what they did. Power is not found in confrontation. It's found in control. Self-control. The kind of control that makes the other person start to collapse under the weight of their own behavior. Not because you attacked them, but because you didn't. Because you stayed still while they fell apart. If this hit something deep in you, if you've ever felt the weight of silence and used it as a weapon like this video, share it with one man who needs to hear this. And if you want more, subscribe. Because this channel isn't about noise. It's about power. Society doesn't fear the loud man. The one who shouts. The one who complains. The one who always reacts. They expect him. They understand him. They can control him. Because the moment he speaks, they know where he stands. They know his wounds. They know what he wants. But the man who doesn't react, the man who doesn't explain, the man who doesn't flinch, he's terrifying. Because you don't know what he's thinking. You don't know what he's planning. You don't know what he knows. And that is real power. When you react, you make yourself readable. You hand your mind to the enemy. But when you stay still, you become unreadable. Unpredictable. Untouchable. In a world addicted to reaction, presence becomes rebellion. And silence becomes violence to those who depend on your emotional compliance. The truth is, society fears what it cannot interpret. And it cannot interpret the man who refuses to perform. The man who doesn't beg for validation, who doesn't argue to be understood, who doesn't seek to please. That man is not dangerous because he fights. He's dangerous because he doesn't have to. His stillness is not a lack of emotion. It's a sign of discipline, of control, of power. You see, when you don't react, you give them nothing to win. No apology to reject. No anger to dismiss. No words to twist. You become a black mirror, and they see only themselves. The weak crumble in front of that. They call you cold. They call you cruel. But what they're really saying is that they can't manipulate you anymore, because you've stopped feeding them, stopped proving yourself, stopped playing by their rules. And without your energy, they shrink, they spiral, they fade. This is why society punishes men who don't perform, who don't explain, who don't react. Because that kind of man can't be controlled. And in a world built on manipulation, a man who cannot be moved is the most feared creature of all. Comment below. Have you ever stayed silent and watched the truth unravel on its own? Let me know what happened. Because sometimes the most powerful move is no move at all. Weak people don't survive on truth. They survive on your reaction. Your anger gives them purpose. Your outrage gives them an audience. Your explanation gives them control. Because without your energy, they are nothing. That's the secret. They don't actually win by lying, by backstabbing, by disrespecting you. They only win if you respond. Because your reaction becomes their alibi, their justification, and most importantly, their relevance. Without your reaction, they lose their mask. They start to look like exactly what they are. Petty, desperate, insecure. But the moment you explode, they can play victim. They can say you're unstable, you're overreacting, you're dangerous. And now the story belongs to them. The real manipulator doesn't need to win in truth. They only need to make you look bad, to make you emotional, to make you react while they stay calm, clean, composed. That's how they survive. They pull you into chaos. They make you forget who you are. They make you fight their fight. But when you stop playing, when you stop explaining, when you stop feeding them something, terrifying happens. They start to decay, because their strategy only works on people who care. And when you don't care, when you don't respond, when you let them say what they want but never engage, you become untouchable. Not because you shouted, but because you didn't. Not because you fought, but because you didn't show up to their little war. And nothing infuriates a manipulator more than being ignored by the person they can no longer control. They need your reaction like a parasite needs a host. Cut off the reaction, and they suffocate. That's the Machiavellian truth. The power is not in striking back. It's in refusing to give them a stage. Let them act. Let them perform. You just leave the theater, and the show falls apart. Have you ever watched someone fall apart after you stopped reacting to them? Comment below. Your silence may have been the loudest message they ever heard. There is a kind of punishment that doesn't require force. It doesn't need words, doesn't need confrontation, doesn't even need your presence. It just needs your withdrawal, your silence, your absence, your refusal to play. This is how kings destroy, not with swords, but with exile, not with rage, but with distance. When you react, you acknowledge, you validate. You say, you matter enough for me to respond. But when you don't respond, you tell them they are beneath reaction, that they are noise not worth hearing, that their attack didn't even touch your reality. And that hurts more than any insult ever could, because action gives them clarity. But your stillness leaves them haunted by questions. Did he not care? Did he know more than I thought? Did I just lose the only person who truly saw through me? This is how you punish without lifting a hand. You let time do the damage. You let silence do the screaming. You let their own guilt rot them from the inside. Machiavelli understood this. He said a prince must learn to use cruelty well. And the greatest cruelty is absence. Not just physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. You disappear without closure, without explanation, without giving them the satisfaction of reaction, and now they are stuck in their own mind, spinning, doubting, panicking, not because of what you did, but because of what you refused to do. You refused to fight, to chase, to explain. You didn't just walk away. You erased the road back. And in doing so, you became a ghost they can't stop thinking about. They check your silence like a wound, again and again, hoping for proof that you still care, that you're still angry, that you're still reachable. But you're not. And that is the most devastating punishment you can give, because it shows them they never had power, only access. And once that access is gone, they shrink back into the nothing they always were, before you gave them your attention. Let them feel it. Let them feel the cold vacuum you leave behind. Not out of hatred, but out of sovereignty, out of strategy, out of power. Because a man who punishes without lifting a finger is a man no one dares to provoke again. Have you ever punished someone by simply disappearing? By refusing to react and watching their world fall apart? Drop a comment below. Let others see the true power of walking away. Sometimes you don't need to leave to punish. You stay, but you don't speak. You don't react. You don't comfort. You become presence. Raw, cold, unshakable. And that alone is unbearable for the guilty, Sekitu. Because most people can handle anger. They can handle yelling. They can handle drama. What they cannot handle is being seen without being reassured. When you look at them and say nothing, they feel it. They feel every lie, every manipulation, every betrayal hanging in the air between your eyes and their shame. You don't need to accuse. You don't need to remind. Your silence is louder than any sentence they could ever receive. Because now they see themselves reflected in your stillness. You've become a mirror they cannot escape. And in that mirror, they're not the victim. They're not the hero. They're exposed. Completely. Your cold gaze becomes the weight they cannot carry. It says, I know what you did. I'm not moved. I'm still here, but you'll never have me again. And that breaks them. Because you didn't scream. You didn't chase. You didn't leave. You just became untouchable in front of their face. They expected chaos. You gave them nothing. They expected closure. You gave them silence. They expected your emotions. You gave them control. And now they sit in front of you feeling small, powerless, and completely exposed. This is the art of punishing with presence. It's not loud. It's not violent. It's not theatrical. It's surgical. It's devastating. It's final. Because the moment they realize you've seen everything and still chose to say nothing is the moment they realize you no longer care. And nothing hurts more than being nothing to someone who used to feel everything. That is the power of the cold gaze. That is the punishment. No apology can erase. Have you ever watched someone fall apart while you said nothing, standing right in front of them? If your presence alone has ever felt like justice, leave a comment below. Let's see how many of us have used silence as power. There's a method to destroy someone without touching them. It doesn't take noise. It takes nerve. Here are the 3 steps to end their power without saying a word. Step 1. Withdraw all energy. They thrive on your attention, your replies, your anger. So take it away. No response. No reaction. No presence. Don't explain. Don't announce your exit. Just go. But don't leave the door open. Seal it. Brick by brick. No breadcrumbs. No signals. No lingering curiosity. The silence must be absolute. Unmistakable. Undeniable. That's when they panic. Not because you shouted, but because you disappeared with nothing left behind. Step 2. Weaponize. Silence. Your silence is not absence. It's precision. A silent verdict that echoes louder than any insult. They'll tell stories. Spin narratives. Seek attention. Let them. You don't correct the record. You don't defend yourself. You don't feed their fire. You stay still, like a blade resting quietly on the table. The danger is no longer in motion. It's in what might come but never does. Let them sit in that. Let the weight of what you didn't say sink in, because silence is the loudest accusation you'll ever deliver. Step 3. Rise where they can't reach. Don't just disappear. Ascend. Build. Level up. Disappear into purpose. While they gossip, you execute. While they spiral, you strategize. While they replay the past, you rewrite your future. You don't have to flaunt it. They'll see it in your absence. They'll hear it in your silence. Let your calm be threatening. Let your progress be punishment. Because nothing destroys a parasite faster than losing the host. You stop responding and they start decaying. You stop proving and they start doubting. You stop caring and their relevance dies. This is the formula. Withdraw your energy. Say nothing. Outgrow them. It's not personal. It's strategic. You didn't destroy them. You just left. And they collapsed on their own. Which step have you already taken? Silence. Disappearance. Leveling up. Comment the number below. Let's see how many of us are no longer giving away power. The final act is not yours. It's theirs. You don't raise your voice. You don't make your case. You don't show up to defend yourself. You simply stop speaking. Stop explaining. Stop participating. And that silence becomes the stage on which they unravel. Because the person who lied now has to carry the truth alone. The person who manipulated now has no one left to pull. And the person who disrespected now stands in front of the mirror they once called you. And they can't handle what they see. Because when the drama ends and your name no longer responds, they are forced to perform alone. And nothing looks more pathetic than a villain with no hero to chase. They try to rewrite the story. They try to twist the ending. They reach for one more response. One more argument. One more piece of you to hold on to. But there's nothing left. No anger. No sorrow. No guilt. Just distance. Silence. Peace. And that peace hurts them more than anything you could have said. Because peace means you've let go. Truly. Permanently. Without revenge. And that is something they never expected. They wanted a fight. They got a void. They wanted closure. They got erased. And in that silence, they begin to rot. Not because of you, but because of everything they were when they thought you'd never leave. Now every whisper they told echoes back at them. Every tactic they used has no effect. And every piece of control they once had turns to dust in your absence. This is how you destroy someone without ever lifting a finger. You become unreachable, unreactive, unbothered, and in that space they collapse. The silence you created becomes the judgment they cannot escape. It becomes the consequence they never thought they'd face. Not because you hated them, but because you outgrew them, and now they destroy themselves, trying to reach a version of you that no longer exists. Have you ever watched someone undo themselves while you said nothing? Leave a comment, and let others see what happens when power chooses silence. Some people don't deserve a reaction. They deserve to witness the consequences of losing access to a version of you that never comes back. You don't need to prove them wrong. You don't need to win the argument. You don't need to fix their image of you. Because your silence is not weakness. It's a verdict. It's a door closing. Quietly. Finally, let them spin. Let them rewrite. Let them explain your absence to people who were never there for your presence. You owe them nothing. Not a message. Not a reaction. not a single drop of your energy. Because true power isn't about control over others. It's about control over yourself. And the man who doesn't flinch when provoked, who doesn't chase when discarded, who doesn't beg when misunderstood, that man isn't passive. He's dangerous, not because of what he says, but because of what he sees, and chooses not to say. This is the Machiavellian mindset. Not to destroy with rage, but to destroy with absence, with silence, with complete indifference. If this message found you in a moment, you were ready to hear it. Subscribe. This is only the beginning. The next video in this series goes even deeper into the dark strategies of power, respect, and emotional mastery. And if you know someone who keeps giving energy to people who don't deserve it, share this with them. They don't need more advice. They need a mirror. And maybe this video is that mirror.